Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. Today we are going to solve the world's problems. Today we are going to solve the internet's problems. Actually, we're only going to solve one of the problems, and that is LPVO versus Red Dot and Magnifier. Which one's better? Actually, we're not going to solve shit because people have their opinions on each one, but we are going to talk about the differences between them, pros and cons, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help you decide what's best for you. So let's get into it. So before we go any farther, if you like this sort of content, please hit the like, share, subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and select all notifications if you want to get more videos from me. You can also become a channel member where you get previews of videos and member-only posts, things like that. I also have a Ko-Fi, which is sort of like Patreon, Subscribe Star. Neither one of them wanted me, but you can go over there as well and receive the same thing. So LPVO versus Red Dot and Magnifier. This has been a sticking point, a subject of conversation, a subject of debate, almost as long as the two have been around. Which one's better? Which one's more effective? Which ones can be used more efficiently and effectively? So we're going to talk about, again, the pros and cons of each one, and maybe it'll help you out. Really quick, I'm going to get my opinion of the two out of the way. This is, of course, a subjective opinion, but we'll get into the objective and things that are actually fact about each one here in a second. My opinion is I like them both. I use them both for different reasons, and I think that a LPVO, assuming you are of a higher power LPVO, not something that's 1 to 3, which we're going to get into in a second, 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, but if you're at 1 to 6 or 1 to 8, and you may have a rifle that you will use in close quarters and at distance, I think an LPVO is probably better. If you're going to be using a shorter rifle or pistol, and it's going to be mainly close distance, home defense, things like that. I know you don't need a magnification for home defense, but you're going to be using it for more close distance with the occasional maybe longer range shot, then Red Dot Magnifier is, in my opinion, the better way to go. That's my opinion. Don't crucify me for it, but let's get into the rest of it. So I mentioned 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 LPVOs. This is the Monstrum 1 to 3. This is the Monstrum Ghost Red Dot and 3X Magnifier. They serve a very similar purpose. I don't believe that there's a debate between the two when it comes to similar magnification. If you have a 4X magnifier or a 3X LPVO, or 1 to 3 LPVO, I believe you can accomplish the same thing with both of them. So I don't even know that there's a debate there in my mind. Now let's first get into the pros of an LPVO. Now I'm using the Monstrum stuff here because it's what I have on hand. I've done a bunch of research on different models, primary arms, and Vortex for some of the later information that you'll be given, including with Monstrum. Some of the pros when it comes to an LPVO. I believe an LPVO has a leg up in one instance because most, if not all, I don't know of one that doesn't, have an etched reticle, which means you don't have to use batteries in order to use this or any other LPVO. So that is a plus. Another plus is a lot of LPVOs, if not all, have some sort of a ranging system in it, whether it's hash marks, mil dots, something along those lines, something that you can use for ranging, holdovers, whether it's a holdover or windage. It has some sort of a ranging reticle in it, so that is a plus as well. Now, assuming that you have a LPVO that has that doesn't have like big, thick, heavy lines and big, thick, heavy dots or reticles in them, oftentimes you find finer aiming points in LPVOs. Now, that is with pretty much everything except for the ACSS reticle, which has an infinite aiming point at the top of the chevron. But if you have any sort of a crosshair or dot in your LPVO, it is likely finer with the etched reticle, and I'm not talking about illumination, the etched reticle, than some red dots that if you have to turn the brightness way up in order to use during daylight, the higher the brightness, the more it tends to bloom out, and it's not as fine of a aiming point. Another positive of an LPVO is the turrets. It is, generally speaking, more quickly accessible to adjust your reticle on the go with an LPVO than it is a red dot. Most red dots have some sort of a capped, and even if it's not a capped turret, but something that takes a tool or a tool that's built into the red dot, like the little flathead screwdrivers sometimes, where you have to take the cap off, flip the cap over, and change, and move your windage and elevation, and then you lose the cap when you're in the field. So I believe the more rapid accessibility and changing of the reticle windage and elevation is a positive for the LPVO. Now, one of the other things that I have found, and I did this one last because of it's so close, it's almost not worth mentioning, but in my understanding and reading from not just Monstrum, Primary Arms, and Vortex, that LPVOs generally are a bit lighter. And what I found is either right, and it's going to also depend on mounts, on what mounts you use for each thing, but as far as like, this is the mount that came with this is the mount that came with this. I'm not using like a extra Unity mount on this for it to be taller and adding more weight. So keep all that in mind. But I have found that either the Red Dot Magnifier match the weight of the LPVO, or the Red Dot Magnifier is up to 5 or 6 ounces heavier than the LPVO. So the LPVO in similar magnifications, the LPVO is lighter. You're getting a 1:8, 1:10 LPVOs. They tend to be heavier because it is the nature of that beast. Now, downside of LPVO, eye boxing, eye relief. With a red dot, you don't have the eye box problem or eye relief problems unless you're using your magnifier. Now, your magnifier will have eye box and eye relief problems, but on 1X and on 1X or 0X, you can run into eye box and eye relief issues with the LPVO over the Red Dot Magnifier. Some of this is going to get repeated when I do some of the positives of the Red Dot Magnifier. Another negative is I believe LPVOs to not be as durable as a lot of red dots out there. There's more happening in here, and I believe that there are more things that can possibly go wrong in an LPVO. Red Dot Magnifier. I'm going to go to the obvious one that I just mentioned, is you have zero eye relief issues or eye box issues with this. You can have parallax issues with both, but I feel that you have probably more parallax issues depending on the red dot with the red dot than with the LPVO. The zero eye relief, or the infinite eye relief of the red dot, I think is a plus to the red dot. However, when you flip the magnifier over, you delete that positive, that good thing. So does it cancel it out? I don't know. Again, in my opinion, you run this setup if you're going to be using this the most, and only occasionally using this. So another benefit, I believe, of Red Dot Magnifier is when you have the magnifier flipped to the side and you are set up like this, you generally still have room for a rear fold down sight, some sort of flip up sight, and of course you have your front sight, whether it's a fixed front sight post or a flip up front sight. So you have a more accessible or better use of backup iron sights with a Red Dot and Magnifier than you do with an LPVO that generally sticks over the back of the rail section and even over back of the charging handle, where you can't put the rear backup iron sight behind it. So for you night vision guys, depending on the Red Dot that you have, assuming it has night vision settings, a Red Dot is absolutely better for night vision use if you're going to aim through your optic than an LPVO. And unless I'm forgetting one, I don't know that there's a actual Red Dot out there that has an etched reticle. There might be, but they're not very common. You always have to use battery and or at least solar, but you're always relying on electronics to make your Red Dot work, where you're not with an LPVO with an etched reticle. Another negative is the width. So when you are not using your magnifier, it is sticking 2 inches out, sometimes even quite high, from the side of your rifle. Does this interfere with what you're doing? I don't know. That's for you to decide. However, it is a thing where this is pretty compact. It only flips over a small amount, but it still adds, if you line up the bases, 1.5 inches or more of width to the top of your rifle. This can get caught up on gear, on slings, things like that. Again, that's for you to decide whether or not it's something that's going to get in your way or not. You can, of course, run it like this all the time, but if you're going to do that, why not just use an LPVO? Now, some of the similarities are they both take a gross motor skill to use. This one, the Red Dot and Magnifier, you have to reach over or take your hand off your primary grip and flip it over in order to get the magnification. And with an LPVO, you have to reach up and turn the magnification ring or use the throw lever to gain your magnification. So they both take a fairly significant gross motor skill in order to use the magnification for each one. Now, outside of the ability to run a backup iron sight, I'm gonna say most of the time with a Red Dot Magnifier, they both take up generally the same amount of rail space. And what I mean by that is that once you put this on your rifle, the entirety, pretty much the entirety of your upper receiver is covered. While it may only have this much clamping surface, you can't put anything under here, and you can't put anything under here. On a Red Dot Magnifier, you run your Red Dot all the way to the front, and then you put your magnifier wherever it is best suited for your stock length and eyes, and you pretty much take up all of the top rail at that point as well. So there are similarities there. Now, price point, depending on what you get, can be an issue. It just really, and I don't even want to say one is better than the other, because there are some very expensive LPVOs out there and some very expensive Red Dot and Magnifier combos or individual pieces that you put together yourself. So price is what it is. It depends on what you choose. So again, like I said, we're not going to solve shit today. People are going to have their opinions one way or the other. I use them both. I like them both. I like them both for various reasons. If I'm going to have it on a rifle, then I'm going to use long range more often than I'm going to use for the Red Dot Magnifier. I choose LPVO. If it's on a shorter rifle or pistol and I'm going to use the zero magnification or just the Red Dot more often than any sort of long range, then I'm going to choose the Red Dot and Magnifier. It is what it is. That's how I see the debate between the two. You choose for yourself which one's best for you, but there's some information for you. If I left anything out between the two, it's likely not important enough to have mentioned. Weight, rail space, ability, eye box, eye relief, batteries, electronics, all that stuff. There's pros and cons to each one with each piece. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, become a member of the channel, or go over to Ko-Fi. Either way, the support is absolutely appreciated. Again, if you like this kind of content. Hit the notification bell and hit all notifications so you can get more from me. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.